Welcome, one and all, to the Hurdle Podcast. We got to recap some championship games because we have the Super Bowl set. And dare I say, the Super Bowl for the people, because it's the one Super Bowl I feel like all of us will tune in for because of it's not your typical Super Bowl. So, but we'll get into the games. First one, Sunday morning, instant classic again. Bengals in another classic in this playoff run. Been having to come up clutch in all their games, going back to the Raiders game to start the postseason. And the Bengals squeak it out, man. They beat the Chiefs 27-24. Joe Shiesty and those Bengals will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And really, this game was a tale of two halves. You had KC and Patrick Mahomes, who had one of the probably best starts to a game Mahomes has had in a long time, at least. And the Chiefs jump out early. They were up by 11 going into the half. And I think we all looked at each other and we're like, oh, here we go again. And then this Bengals team just figures it out in the second half. They outscore by 11, send it to overtime. And then, of course, the coin flip happens and the Chiefs get it. And we also all go again, oh, shit, there we go. There's the game right there because of what we saw last week between KC and Buffalo. But that Cincy defense was stellar, gets the pick in overtime. Great play by Jesse Bates to bat it to his teammate pretty much to break the pass up. And really, Shiesty and Joe Mixon take that team down, get the most clutch kicker of late. I mean, because Tucker didn't make the playoffs, but
he's the most clutch kicker in the league right now.
Yeah, really. I would say that for sure. And Evan McPherson, he had a chip shot 31-yarder, and that sent the Bengals to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What?
I'm right with you.
Like, look, 2 years ago, this team had the number 1 pick. They take Burrow. Last year, they have the number 5 pick because they're still terrible because Joe got hurt. And they get Jamar Chase.
And now they're Super Bowl.
And now they're in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
How?
I don't know. Joe Burrow, man. Joe Burrow, man. He just knows how to work that magic. It's pretty incredible. How the Chiefs started this game, it was eerily similar to the Week 17 matchup. 21-10 going into half. It was 21-3 at one point. Looked like the Chiefs were going to run away with it. Mahomes was playing fantastic football. But then Eli Apple makes a huge play out of all people on the goal line.
And like all the memes and jokes, like in that first half, getting burnt by Tyreek, burnt toast, and there's many good ones. So NFL memes and Ghetto Gronk have you covered for those. Shout out to those guys. But yeah, like you said, big play right on the goal line to keep the Chiefs out from scoring right before the half.
Now you look back at it, you're like, do you kick the field goal now? Which at the time I thought going for was the right call.
I still think it most likely was because that's just deflating right before the half. If you're a Cincinnati defense,
28-3, that's almost impossible to come back unless you're Tom Brady. But the Chiefs aren't the Falcons. So, and you have Patrick Mahomes, but huge play by Eli Apple. And then just the adjustments the Bengals make at halftime really flip this game on its head. Yeah. Really flips this game on its head. You go to guys like Samaje Perine, even though he ran the wrong way on a screen, scored a 41-yard touchdown on a normal screen. Like you said, Joe Mixon with the ground game.
Especially in that overtime. He was clutch in that overtime. Got 2 very big runs back-to-back to really put them in field goal range.
And then when they throw it, you go to Higgins twice in overtime, if I remember correctly. One on a key second down.
It was that quick slant,
barely
right?
Converted. Yeah, there was a slant and an in route, if I remember correctly. So you go to him, and then when you need it most, in regulation, who else but Jamar Chase, fade route, touchdown, 2-point conversion goes to Trent Taylor of all people, who just got called up off the practice.
He didn't have a catch outside that. It was the 2-point conversion.
Exactly. So yeah, and you just give McPherson inside 55. It's almost cash money every time.
And it's insane because in KC, that's one of the tougher places to kick just because of how cold and how windy it can get. And it did not faze him in this game at all.
No, even as a rookie. So he's been super impressive. But yeah, really, Cincinnati's defense in the second half won them this ball game. Cincinnati dominated time of possession in that second half. It really just felt like KC never had the ball. really just felt like Cincinnati was on offense the entire second half, and even in overtime, because Mahomes throws a pick in 2 plays. So it was really impressive. Trey Hendrickson, I believe, had like 2.5 sacks.
That D line got after in that second half.
BJ Hill with a pick.
That set him up for the score to tie it.
Yeah, which was also eerily similar to TJ Watt's pick. Excuse me, Hendrickson with a sack and a half. Sam Hubbard with 2 sacks. So that's where I got mixed up.
And it's crazy because it all happened in the second half. Because like you said, it seemed like since he had the ball the whole second half. And that's because they were holding KC to 3 and outs. And it was getting that pressure on Mahomes. And Mahomes did his scrambles in the first half and got away. And we're like, oh my God, it's Patrick Mahomes, of course. That second half, he couldn't do it. And then he almost cost them the game by fumbling it on that last drive when he was scrambling around. Thank goodness his lineman was there to recover.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, it's just huge credit to Zach Taylor and that Bengals defense really just adjusting, knowing Eli Apple's getting torched in the first half. So you go double team him, mix up your safety coverages. It was a great game plan, great call in the second half to go to that. If you double team Hill, you can't let him beat you over the top, because even though Kelsey's a great tight end, speed isn't his number one go-to athletic ability. Is his hands. He's just an amazing route runner, and he can catch with the best of them. So hold Hill in check. They let Kelsey get a few stuff underneath. I mean, he had a great game.
But he didn't like have one of those huge breakout plays like he did in the Buffalo game.
Yeah,
exactly. They held him in check.
Exactly. And they let Tyreek cook him in the first half, switch that up in the second half, let McKinnon do his stuff underneath, let Tyreek do his stuff underneath, or Travis do his stuff underneath. And it was really a wrap. The front 7 played amazing. Logan Wilson was amazing. Jesse Bates with the clutch tip. Von Bell was fantastic. Since he's secondary, which was, I think, I don't know, the most overlooked part of this defense, I think you could say, really stepped up in the clutch. And yeah, they're just playing great team football right now. I think that's the best way to put it. They convert on third down. They stop people on third down. And those are the 2 huge factors besides turning the ball over, which they only had a pick. Joe Burrow only threw 1 pick. On that, he tried to go 1-on-1 with Chase to Snead on like a out route.
And why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
It was a crazy pick too, right on the sideline. Like it was just timed perfectly. It was the right read. I think you go 1-on-1 to Jamar Chase versus Snead 9 times out of 10. Like
which they did.
And it was wow.
It was really remarkable just how KC kind of just slowly disintegrated in the second half. It was pretty amazing to watch, I would say, in a way, but it was also kind of just like I was kind of flabbergasted.
It's like you don't see this out of this Chiefs team because
in the playoffs,
especially in the playoffs. And it's kind of like you looked at it, and it's not like KC's defense was playing bad in that second half per se. They were still getting pressure on Joe Burrow. Chris Jones was in Joe Burrow's face the whole game. Joe Burrow was just able to break sacks. He broke 2 sacks on 1 play by Chris Jones and scrambled for a first down, 3rd and 7.
He's the best nose tackle in the league.
Yeah, hands maybe Aaron Donald.
He plays right. He flips around, but like still strict nose tackle.
Yes,
Chris Jones is number 1 in the league, hands down.
And it's insane the playmaker ability that Joe Burrow has, especially in this game. It just really showed, and they played the more complete game. And I guess the question is, what does KC do from here? Because they are so stacked, and you just go, you lose to Cincinnati. Like we were saying, like there's a shot that Cincy wins. But the smart pick is KC because they're just that loaded.
Yeah, and I felt like this year especially, they were way more well-rounded this year.
Especially game
offensively, with McKinnon underneath, Allaire and Williams in the run game, I felt was more balanced. They weren't, now that everyone's playing 2 deep safety on, they weren't just taking deep shots down the field every play, even though they converted those at a stupid high rate when they won the Super Bowl. I just felt like they were a more complete, well-rounded team this year, especially with the offensive line being better this year.
Yeah, because you bring in Orlando Brown Jr.,
you bring in Tooney, you draft Humphrey, you draft Trey Smith, who are the 2 best offensive line rookies in the entire draft last year. And I don't know, you run it back, But
Yeah.
with Reed, you run it back with Bieniemy if he stays, which you hopefully he
And
does.
It's looking like he
and
will.
It's looking like he will. Maybe I don't know why he doesn't have a head coaching job. Maybe he's just a terrible interviewer, which does factor into it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to see the production that he's doing with Patrick Mahomes, and I don't know how you look at that and not hire him. But or maybe he just wants to stay in KC. Maybe that's his whole thing.
Because it seems like every year he goes on these interviews and just doesn't get a
job.
offer. Really, he never gets really an offer, and it's like maybe he just likes his role in KC. Like he's okay being Seinfeld, and maybe he's staying there to maybe do kind of what either a Dan Quinn or a Kellen Moore's doing right now in Dallas is stay there, and if Reed retires or for some reason gets fired, they'll just throw him to the head coaching job. I think it's smart for him to just kind of stay in KC, unless you were going to a team that had a young quarterback that you could develop, like possibly in Miami. That's really it, if we're being honest.
I think I'd be fine. I think all surrounding parts are fine with Bieniemy staying in KC.
Chiefs fans aren't complaining.
Chiefs fans are complaining, but Mahomes isn't complaining. Anything with Kansas City isn't complaining, but it just seems like the NFL doesn't want him to have a head coaching job, and Bieniemy kind of seems okay with it. Because why not go and get 4 or 5 rings with Patrick Mahomes by the end of your time? Maybe once Reed retires, because he's getting up there in age, he just takes that head coaching job right there. Which I think maybe that's what they're planning to do, is just hand it right down to him. So
that's what we kind of thought out of New England, which we'll get into that in another episode. But McDaniel's leaving to taking the Raiders job. Yeah. It's just like, okay, so what do they do after Belichick now? And that's a question to be
Gunner Belichick.
Gunner Belichick. Yeah. I mean, you keep the Belichick name there, I guess. I don't know. I think KC's loaded, but the reports of Juju wanting out of Pittsburgh,
going to KC,
and most likely going to KC because he had an offer from them last year at Baltimore and didn't take either because he wanted to run it back. So obviously, I think clear and cut choices, if he does leave, he'll go to KC. So if that offense wasn't as stacked already, you have that go up and get it receiver in Juju now to complement Tyreek and Kelsey. And that's the one big thing KC needs to get, is just another weapon for Mahomes. And if Juju really wants to go to KC, that's the match made in heaven. They've got a few things to address on defense, specifically at safety, outside of Tyrann Mathieu,
which they can fix in the draft.
Exactly. They're going to have a decent enough pick, and the safety and / corner class is very deep.
They're only going to get better.
Yeah. Like they're at this, like, oh, they make the Super Bowl. They're just going to run back next year and probably be better. They're going to bring a few pieces in.
If they really wanted to, I mean, I like Brisker. I like Hill out of Michigan. They really wanted to trade 2 firsts and a second, because your team is already so stacked. You can't really pay any more people. Go get Kyle Hamilton. Like, they can do so many stupid things. They have not necessarily stupid things, but like be crazy aggressive in the off season, go out and just get top level talent all the way across the board. Cause you're not going to be paying Kyle Hamilton a ridiculous amount of money, where if you traded 2 firsts to go get Derwin's already solidified himself as a top 2 safety in the league, even with injury. So he's going to be asking for a payday here soon, unless he hasn't already gotten one, which I don't recall. But they can just be crazy aggressive in the off season, and just Mahomes' contract kicks in next year. So that's going to be the heavy hitter, of course, because now they're paying him upwards of $42 million a year, as it's backloaded. I think by this last year, he's up near 54, 55. So that's a huge capper now. But if people like Juju Smith-Schuster are willing to come in for 1 year, 4.5, and you add high quality pieces for a low quality price, KC is only going to be in the AFC Championship for the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. They're still loaded. I don't think we're worried about KC. But congrats to the Bengals, Joe Shiesty and those young studs are in the Super Bowl. I never thought going into this year I would say, hey, Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. The only guy that did was Dan Orlovsky. He goes, I wouldn't be shocked if Joe Burrow leads the Bengals to the Super Bowl. And I go,
well, he said the Burrow played for the Steelers. They would be Super Bowl contenders or something like that. He ain't even on the Steelers. So
yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that. But congrats to the Bengals. Casey's going to run back. We're not too worried about them. Now we go to the later game, and we got, Niners-Rams 3.0. It was a very good game. It was a very good game in comparison, because, I mean, we were trashing on it because it's the 3rd time we've seen it. But really, both games this year outside of the blowout the first time, like that game right before the end of the year. Great game.
Mhm.
This one lived up to the hype. And the Rams advanced. They win 2017 over the Niners. Stafford played pretty well. Cooper Kupp just
It's always open.
he's
I say it
becoming the
about
Kelsey
Kelsey.
thing now.
But I say about Kelsey all the time that he's always open, which he was open on the game-winning play. If you watch the aerial view, he was wide open.
Same with Tyreek. Tyreek was getting open, I think.
Right. It would have been like a stupid tough throw. But yes,
So
it's Mahomes. But you take the field goal, you go in overtime, you run it there. But Cooper Kupp is becoming that guy where it's just like the route running is so pristine and the scheme fit is so perfect. He is open on almost every play, and Stafford is finding him.
Yeah, because it's like now when they have Odell there now too, you have to double one of them, and you're probably going to try to double Cooper Kupp. So that just leaves Odell one-on-one, and that's a scary matchup. I don't care what you want to say about Odell, and he had a very good game. But Cooper Kupp stole the show: 11 catches, 142, and 2 touchdowns. I think the person I feel for the most in all of this is Deebo
Samuel, yeah,
because he has pretty much carried him and this defense have carried the Niners to this point, and he balled out in this game. He had dang near 100 yards of total offense. He didn't do a ton in the receiving game. He had a touchdown, but the Rams really kept him in check with only 4 catches, which when you're playing Jimmy G's perfect, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, you look at it, the Niners looked really good for the first 3 quarters. I think they did what they had to. They kept the ball in the Rams' hands. They made stops when they needed to, and the offense was moving the ball and either getting a field goal here and there, or they were getting points. Mm-hmm. And then that all went away because they were up. Let's see what they were up. They were up 10 going into the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what happened. You had was it Tart that dropped the pick?
Yeah.
With 9 minutes left. I mean, you look at that and you go, that's a big play, but there were still 9 minutes in the game. But knowing that Niners offense, they would have wound that.
Also, Ramsey dropped a wide open one too.
Yeah. So I mean,
that's Jalen Ramsey. Like you expect him to make that play. So you expect Tart to make his play as well, of course, because it was a punt. Basically,
I know, and they always say those are the hardest, ones that just look the easiest.
It feels weird. It's like the same thing in basketball. Wide open fast break layup is one of the weirdest shots in basketball because
and sometimes a wide open 3-2 because you're like, oh shit, I'm open, and you're just shooting like, oh dang it, like
exactly.
The wide open easy ones just always seem to be the ones that are the most difficult to bring in for some reason. Jimmy G, look, I mean, he's not a stellar quarterback by any means, but he does what he has to. He's a game manager.
Does it with the best of them.
Yeah, like he manages games. I mean, he had 1 turnover in this game, but he was 16 of 32, 32 and 2 touchdowns. That's what you expect at Jimmy G. Like you can't ask for much more, especially against that Rams defense.
It's probably the best game he's played in the playoffs all year.
Yeah, and really the pick was just
it was dumb.
You just take the sack or throw it away or something, dude. Like you can't just throw that up, fling it up. And it was pretty much, again, a pretty easy pick for the Rams defense. And that pretty much sealed it. So up to that point, he had a very clean game. I'm excited to see this matchup now that we got Rams Bengals. You've got 2 explosive offenses, and the Rams have probably 1 or 2 for the best defense in the NFL. They're in the top 2. And they're hungry, man. They're hungry.
Yeah. You
can tell. Cooper Kupp's hungry. Stafford's hungry. Donald is very hungry.
Ramsey.
Odell's hungry. Like
Vaughn again.
They built the super team. Like this is what the Bucs did last year. They built a super team. They get to the Super Bowl and they won it in convincing fashion. So as much as I'm excited to see Cincy in the Super Bowl, this is a tall task because if Eli Apple is getting burnt by Tyreek, he is going to just get ran out of the stadium by Cooper Kupp or Odell, whoever he covers. And it's a scary thought. It's just going to come down to who makes the adjustments. But I mean, I guess a big question out of this is it's been pretty clear Jimmy G's out next year. They want to find a trade partner for him. Is there a team that takes him? Because we had an off-camera discussion with a few of our friends, and I think we all agree Jimmy G's, most of us at least.
Yes. He's top 20.
Yeah, he's a top 20 quarterback. He's a game manager.
25.
Yeah, we'll go 25.
Borderline 20.
Borderline. Maybe 21, 22. We'll go in that range. But do you think there's a team that's a suitor for him? Maybe one of these teams that had a quarterback retired?
I don't know. Like, you look at Pittsburgh, but there's no offensive line there. San Fran had one of the best offensive lines this year with that run game, with Deebo Samuel, with that defense. And Pittsburgh matches all that except the offensive line. And they need a guy that can chuck it deep to open the field more for Najee Harris, who gets 8 loaded in the box on every single down. But people say Pittsburgh, but I just don't think that's a fantastic fit.
It's not terrible.
People also say Miami, but they're fully invested in Tua and $100,000 in losing per game. Man, I just, there's not a team that strikes me that needs Garoppolo. So I can see when we were having our discussion, we had a buddy say he's not going to be a starting quarterback next year, which I can see because there's a potential, because a team is already trying to develop a young star. That's what the draft was last year, like 4 or 5 quarterbacks when the first round Fields, Lawrence, Wilson, Jones, Lance, exactly.
Jones.
So you got those 5 teams scratched off the board. Pittsburgh needs a quarterback, but I like them. The runnings for Deshaun Watson personally. I think he's just a great fit there. Maybe the Giants, I guess, but they're rocking Daniel Jones again for another year on his 5th year, I believe.
Yeah, this is his 5th year option here.
And maybe Cleveland, if they really want to turn away from Baker, which I think is the right move. Garoppolo was a better quarterback than Baker was this year. And I know Baker's putting in the work now, I guess, but Cleveland's got to do something. So maybe there.
I think New Orleans.
New Orleans is a good one too, but they're
defense,
so far over the cap, and they paid Jimmy G so much money.
It's going to depend on how much it's going to. Yeah, I was going to say it's like
21 million a year. Yeah.
It's going to just come down to how much the Niners are willing to pay to get him off their team. It's really going to come down to that, because if they're willing to take most of that salary cap, you could see New Orleans maybe going and doing it.
They think Lance is a lock to be ready for next year, which I'm very interested in seeing. I mean, you got to let him play, of course.
Yeah, because we saw 2 or 3 games of him this year, and he didn't look terrible.
He didn't look terrible. He didn't look great by any means. The rushing upside is huge, especially I think Shanahan is drooling at the fact that he's getting ready to run read option all next year with
RPOs
or triple option with Eli Mitchell, Trey Sermon. Once he comes back, unless they just cut him after spending a 3rd round draft pick on him, I believe. But yeah, Lance, Deebo, and Eli Mitchell. Then you get Juszczyk mixed in there. You have the best offensive line in the league, basically.
Ayuk's developing.
Ayuk was fantastic. Kittle is the best all around. He's the best blocking tight end in the league. I don't think there's a question about that. He's the most
well-rounded, I think.
So yeah, that running offense is going to be scary with Lance, and he's going to need time. This team, I feel like, is win now, even though they're so young. I just get San Fran, and I just think win now for some reason. But all their studs are so young that really the only one that's aging on that team is Trent Williams and Alex Mack. Those are offensive linemen, and they signed Trent Williams to 4 years.
And he was, again, we said it last time,
quote unquote, the best player in football this year,
according to PFF.
Yeah. So San Fran's future is bright, but LA.
Woo! They got some bad men on that team. Holy cow.
Yo.
I never realized how big the Weddle signing would be. Like, when Weddle got signed, it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, he's there to be veteran leadership, come in because of the injuries. He led their team in tackles in this game. Like, you can't replace that.
He's a defensive leader. He communicates all the way across the field. I feel like him and Ramsey are just like a match made in heaven. Especially
if they're lined up on the same side.
Especially for Raheem Morris, where he can draw up schemes just around those two playing with each other. And then you get Donald and Vaughn on that front line to pair with that. It is unmatched. It is simply unmatched.
That's what's scary when they play Cincy, because that whole line for Cincy is not good. And then if they follow Ramsey and Weddle on Jamar Chase, you take Jamar Chase and Burrow's time, this could become a blowout very quickly if they're able to succeed in that regard.
Yeah. McVay is putting so much effort into this team.
He finally beat him.
McVay is a player's coach, hands down. If you are a free agent, you want to play for him. Not only because you want to live in LA, you want to play for Sean McVay. It is a simple fact. You see the interactions that he has with guys like Van Jefferson, Odell Beckham. He loves everyone on that team and anyone that plays for him. So I don't know, just the camaraderie that they have in that locker room. Everyone gets along with each other. There's no debate or debacle, anything like that.
You never really have drama. There's not a ton of drama. The only drama really this year was when Ramsey and Rapp got into it in the first quarter of the Ravens game, and the Rams won that game.
Yes, exactly. And Taylor Rapp's been playing great since. Jalen Ramsey's been playing great since, except for the exception of like 1 or 2 plays, which were big plays, but it's Jalen Ramsey. He'll turn it around.
I mean, yeah, and you look at that Tampa game, he was good, and then
except for one play.
Yeah, except really for one play,
which was Brady's last touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So
what a way to have that on your resume.
Yeah, Mike Evans also threw that ball into the stadium. So
dude, Mike, okay, if you're somehow listening to this, dude, just stop throwing him into the crowd, man. Just put him down. Just leave him, because
he's giving out hundreds of thousands of
The
dollars.
Bucs aren't gonna be able to pay your salary, my guy. Like, dude, you gotta stop doing it, because I mean, I guess Brady's not your quarterback anymore, but still, dude, there's some significance to almost every ball, and
especially when Tom Brady's throwing it.
Yeah, like
every ball he throws is a record-setting ball.
Like if I was a receiver for Tom Brady and he threw me a touch, I'd keep every ball he threw to me. Like
I'd ask him to sign every one.
Yeah, exactly. Like anyway, that's a tale for another day. Bucs aren't even in. But the Rams, man.
What really impressed me was Stafford's ability to play without the run. Michelle got boxed. Yeah, Michelle, and same thing on the other side. Eli Mitchell was boxed. Debo broke off 1 or 2. And had a couple big plays offensively. Really, also another thing about Stanford real quick, the evolution not only of Ayuk, but Jawan Jennings in this offense. Jimmy G went to Jawan Jennings on 3rd down on multiple occasions and converted.
Yeah.
So he went to him in overtime.
In the Green Bay game.
In Green Bay. He did in overtime last time they played the Rams. Jawan Jennings is a secret weapon for Shanahan in that offense. He's like a Taylor Gabriel, I would say, in that old Atlanta offense when they made the Super Bowl. For comparison there, but yeah, LA, Stafford's ability to play without the run in this game, fantastic. Michelle was boxed, had 1.6 yards to carry. Cam Akers was good, but they only gave him 13 touches. I think because of the 2 fumbles against Tampa, most likely. I expect to see his touches near 20 probably in the Super Bowl, because since he's front 7, is more of a pass rush front 7 and not a run stop front 7.
Yes.
I think
you saw it in the Raiders game.
Yeah, exactly. I think McVay is going to look to exploit heavily in the run game with Akers and Michelle, and make Stafford be almost more like a way better version of a Tannehill. Extremely efficient, allow him to take his shots downfield and hit Cooper Kupp for his 9 and 127 and a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think it would shock me if whichever running back, one of the Rams running backs could win Super Bowl MVP, because it looks to be that's the one weakness for Cincy is stopping the run, because you saw what Josh Jacobs did. And the Raiders' offensive line isn't the greatest by any means. They're not bad, but they're not.
They traded away their best offensive line. Rodney Hudson was gone after this year. Gabe Jackson was gone as their starting right guard. He's in Seattle. Like their best offensive line, and they drafted Alex Leatherwood, who kind of sucks.
Newsflash. Richie Incognito's their best offensive lineman, and he's
40.
Yeah, like so the fact that they were able to do that against that Cincy run defense, and you're gonna get Andrew Whitworth, you're gonna get the young studs in the 2 guards and center inside, and you've got explosive running backs between the 2. So yeah, I totally agree. I think the Rams are gonna turn the run game a lot in this Super Bowl matchup, because it's the weak spot of Cincy, and like. You could say it's the secondary, but after that second half against Kansas City, I don't think you can say that as much.
Yeah.
It's more of a which is the weaker of the 2, and it's got to be the run defense. It has to be. Just because they have one bad corner doesn't mean the secondary for the Bengals is bad.
Exactly. And not only that, keeps Joe Burrow off the field.
Yeah.
And it keeps Jamar Chase off the field. It keeps Mixon off the field. Higgins off the field. Literally 4 of their like 7 best players are not going to be on the field if you can run the ball and shoot clock. And with McVay at the helm of that, like they're out there. But yeah, Stafford played really great football, really. He had 1 or 2 questionable decisions, one of them, which was dropped. I feel so bad for Tart. But I think it's just motivation for him at this point. He knows it. He tweeted about it. I only expect him to bounce back. I feel for him. I've blown game-winning layups, so I know how he feels. It's the worst feeling in the world, especially when it's on a national level. Mine was at a 7th grade AAU game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can only imagine what he feels like. But
that's just gonna motivate him for next year. Tart might just have one of those years, man.
Which that secondary is underrated, man. This Niners team is
so good,
loaded.
Man.
They are loaded, and they're all like 25.
It wouldn't shock me. Like, it depends what Rodgers does, but honestly, it wouldn't shock me if it's the same matchups next year. Really, like the Rams, if they can bring their pieces back, they're going to be back in the NFC Championship.
Absolutely.
The Niners can very easily be back in the NFC Championship with how young they are and how good they are veteran-wise. Then you flip it the other side. KC's going to probably be there. I don't know about Cincy. It's going to see how their offseason goes.
Yeah.
But
because they got re-signed Bates, I think.
And they could run it back too. So, like, we might be in store for this next year because all 4 of these teams just were the best 4 teams in the NFL at the right time.
Yep. And the addition of Odell to this Rams team cannot be understated, especially after losing Robert Woods. If Robert Woods was still in this offense, yeah, exactly. It would just add another dimension, another weapon. I guess you could say poor man's Cooper Kupp basically is kind of the role he plays because they like to line him up in the backfield too. They do a lot of things with him. He's like the Rams version of Debo in some ways. But yeah, this Rams team is loaded. They called a great game, especially Raheem Morris on the defensive end. Being able to hold Eli Mitchell to like 28 yards, I think, is remarkable. Not even 28 yards, 20 on 11 carries. So enough can't be said.
A coach right now. He's getting his head coaching interviews,
which he should. Yeah. So enough can't be said about this Rams team. The Niners have such a bright future, but enough can't be said about LA and how dominant talent-wise this roster is. It's one of the best I think I've ever seen.
If they can bring him back next year, if they can bring these vets back on 1-year deals again,
yeah, watch out.
It's scary because, like, you look at a guy like Odell, he deserves to get paid. But if you're winning games, I don't think it's going to matter
I honestly see Odell coming back to LA next year.
You really don't?
I know. I say I do.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
He loves Stafford. He loves McVay. He loves living in LA, obviously.
And he gets the ball.
Yeah, he gets the ball. Like,
on the money.
I think he'd be stupid not to just keep taking his 1-year deals until this Rams team maybe falls off a little bit. Same thing with Vaughn. Vaughn taking 1-year deals is not a bad thing. I get the Rams have a lot of cap, but like if you lose a guy like Whitworth next year just because of how old he is, his salary cap's off the books.
And you can draft a left tackle.
Yeah, and
which they don't have picks, but yeah, 2nd or 3rd rounders, you can draft a left tackle.
You can find gems. Look at Creed Humphrey. Like
was he a 1st rounder, 2nd rounder?
He was a later round, I think 2nd or 3rd.
Trey Smith was the later round. Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah, Trey Smith was the later round. It's scary to think that we're seeing the version of the Bucs from last year. They bring in the vets, they give them 1-year deals, they win it. And what did they do last year? This year, I mean, they brought them all back. Mm-hmm. Like,
it's possible.
Enough can't be said what could be possible for this LA team for the future because, like, they're an older team. They are win now.
Yeah.
Like, it cannot be understated. Even their stars are very old. Like, Donald's not the youngest. Ramsey's getting up there. Cooper Kupp's not the youngest of receivers. And Stafford's older.
Robert Woods is up there.
Odell's up there. Really, their young pieces are the backfield in Cam Akers. And outside of that, maybe Higbee. Mm-hmm. But in Taylor Rapp.
I think he's near 30. Taylor Rapp's like 24, 25.
Like they're an older team, so it's got to be win now. It has to be. And if they can just bring them all back, man, it's going to be a lot of years of the Rams and an LA sports team just dominating again.
Yep. I mean, that's just how low their roster is. And when you have a great coach in McVay who can not only facilitate a game how he can, but also bring in guys to play certain roles and exploit that. It's remarkable. It's remarkable. So congrats to them on the Super Bowl. Congrats to Cincy on making the
We've
Super
got
Bowl.
quite the Super Bowl.
We got a matchup. Burrow, Stafford. I mean,
it's the young guns versus the vets. It's
Yeah,
as simple
really
as
is.
that. It's
and Donald is thirsty for a Super Bowl right now. That dude looks hungry out there. He's playing his butt off right now. So yeah, we're in store for a great Super Bowl.
oh yeah.
I think that's it for this episode.
Yeah. We had 2 quick games, but we
yeah.
had a lot of in-depth because they
Yep.
were both
Great games.
they followed those Sunday games from last week and just carried over. We might have had 4 of the best games that we'll probably maybe ever see in a stretch of a week. And it's just insane, especially on that big of a stage.
Absolutely. So that's gonna do it for this episode. Thanks for watching. As far as the video goes, subscribe, like, share, comment, all that stuff.
All that jazz. Hit that
Yeah.
notification bell on
Yeah,
YouTube.
absolutely. That's huge.
Because those notifications are quick. They come out very quick. They come out right when we post.
Yes, they do.
Spotify's a little delayed.
Like 10 seconds.
YouTube is on the money when we post. So put that notification bell on if you want the content.
Absolutely. Which we say that for the last, because if you don't like what we're saying, don't want to hear it, you don't got to do it. But if you like what we're saying, like what you're hearing, stay in touch, stay tuned. We're gonna keep this thing rocking. We're almost at 70 episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, subscribe, like, share, comment, notification bell, all that. While this is just the audio version, Spotify, go over there. Hurdle Sports, go down to podcast. Mine Logan's name is on that. Instagram at Hurdle Podcast, HRDL Podcast. All this stuff is linked down in the description.
Every time an episode drops, we post on Instagram.
Bingo. There's multiple ways to know when episodes are dropping for you guys. So but that's gonna do it for this one. Bailey, Logan, we're out. Peace.
Peace, guys.